Welcome to the Lechtich Parsha podcast, where we delve into the Torah's timeless wisdom and uncover uplifting and empowering lessons tailored to the challenges of our generation. A good din Shabbos Parshas Toldos Tavshin Pei Hey. I hope you're doing well. I hope you had a wonderful week. This week's shir is sponsored by my dear friend and neighbor Reb Shamshi and Basia Pinter in honor of the birth of their daughter Tova Eliano. May she be a tremendous source of nachas, of simcha, of happiness to her parents, to her family, and ultimately to the Rebbeinu Shalom. Additionally, this week's shir is sponsored Leilei Nishmas Harav Moshe Ben Nachman Zichrono Levacha. May his neshama have an aliyah. May he be a meditation for his entire mishpacha. Like these two dedications, one for a birth and one for a yahrzeit, you can sponsor the weekly publication and podcast published by Lechtich in honor of a birthday, of a yahrzeit, of an anniversary, whatever it may be, whatever occasion is coming up. Please reach out to 845-367-2959. Looking forward. In this week's parsha, the main focal point is obviously Yaakov and Esav and the Bechorah and Yitzchak Avinu's passing. And there were two ideas that I heard two different times. And originally, at first glance, I thought that there were two separate independent varts, independent thoughts that didn't have to do with each other. But then after really thinking it over, chewing it over, internalizing it, I realized that there's one deeply impactful, strong, pertinent, and very relevant message that I believe and hope we can all gain from. Rav Meilich shares a very profound message, a very deep yesod that we find in the birth of Yaakov and Esav. Often we can feel or think to ourselves, and sometimes express it, that if only I were born into different parents, into different family, or into better circumstances, then everything would be better. We look around, we always have that feeling, this sentiment of the grass is greener on the other side, and if I was just given a different package, then I would be much greater, I'd be much different, I'd be able to accomplish more. Says Rav Meilich Biderman that this is a tremendous mistake, and Hashem wanted to reveal this terrible misconception through the birth of Yaakov and Esav. The lesson, through their birth, being te'umim, being twins, is that Yaakov and Esav were born exactly together, exactly at the same time, in the same exact moment, under the same exact mazalis, and their paths could not have been any more opposite. And it's a very clear lesson that it's not about the family or situation one is born into. Rather, it's about the choices we make and the direction that we take in life. And this is a very powerful reminder that we don't have to rely on the what-ifs of life, because what matters truly is what we do with the opportunities we're given. Yaakov and Esav, they were diametrically opposing figures, personalities, and Yaakov could have said his entire life, I was born with this Rasha, I was born under his mazel, I was born under terrible circumstances. He was Esav, he's Edom, he's Yishmael, he's the root of all evil. Hashem B'dafka had them born together in order to remind us that this is a tremendous mistake. It's a faulty notion, and the truth is that no matter what, even when you're born under the worst circumstances, even when it seems to be that you're born under a wicked mazel, when it seems to be that evil is permeating from the second you're born, Hashem says you can still become a Yaakov Avinu by making the right choices, by remaining resilient and persistent with your goals and aspirations. Anything is possible, and you can rise to be one of the avos, you can rise to be the greatest, and it will be challenging, it will be hard, but nevertheless, Yaakov Avinu was the trailblazer, and he showed us that it's possible. We've heard this, and we know this, and we've heard it packaged in different ways. And this brings us to the next yesod, which is what happens if we try, if we know this is true, but the challenges seem too great, the setbacks are too strong, and we feel that the resistance is just up and against us, and we can't move past it, we can't overcome, we can't become the greatest, we can't utilize the time, we can't become bigger and greater and make those accomplishments and focus on the long-term goal, on our nitzchis, on the olam haba, on the traklin in the next world, the big palace. What do we do then? What do we do when we seem to be overcome by all of the distractions and all the gashmis and all the materialism and all the insanity that's going on around us? What do we do then? How do we overcome? What's the answer to unlocking and overcoming the seemingly impossible? To answer this question, we look back to the beginning of the parsha. Vaya'asa Yitzchak l'neichach ishtoi. Rashi says that Vaya'asa Yitzchak had an extra davening. He increased his davening to a whole another level. And through that tefillah, he was zeicha to have Yaakov Avinu, Let's go back to the conception, to the beginning, to the Bereshis of Yaakov Avinu. We just spoke about Yaakov, the birth. But what about before? What were the Shroshim? What were the roots? It was Vayaser Yitzchak. Yitzchak invigorated himself. He charged himself with a new sense of chashivas, of recognition of the power and potency of tefillah. And through that tefillah, he was zeiche to have Yaakov Avinu. And all the Mefarshim explain, they speak out, that we see the yisoid of tefillah. We see that even when Rivka was an akara, she was barren and there was no physical, natural way for her to have children. But sometimes, when you put in that extra emphasis into tefillah, we can break barriers. We can defy nature. Those ladies who were barren, we can make them fruitful. They can blossom. They can produce. Because with tefillah, nothing stands in our way. And the Eibishter can unlock what seems to be all the locked doors. On the topic of locked doors, the Chafetz Chaim relates an absolutely marvelous anecdote about a Yid who felt exactly this, that everything was locked up before him. And by pouring out his heart and realizing that the sole address was the Eibishter, was zeiche to an unimaginable Yeshua. The story goes as follows. It was in Galicia, and one of the shuls, the Batik Nesius, they had a minhag that every Motzei Shabbos before Ma'ariv, they would get together as a chabura, and they would say Tehillim. And one Yid who wasn't accustomed, he didn't come every single week, he decided to attend the minyan, the gathering, the chabura, and he saw that there was this other Yid, this other Heilig Yid, and he was weeping and crying and screaming, standing in a corner all by himself, and mamish, being shoifech lev, he was pouring out his heart like something he's never seen before. And as the minutes went on, he saw that his crying, his weeping intensified, and he was getting deeper and deeper, and the dveikus was just, the kedusha that exuded from this Yid was unfathomable. He kept on crying and crying, and the time went on, and finally, this Yid who walked in, he went over and said, Rabbi Yid, he said, K'vayda Rav, I don't mean to bother you, and I generally mind my business, but I'm so inspired by your dveikus, by your connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, with your tefillah. I'm just curious, is there something in particular that's bothering you, that's causing this weeping, this crying? Is there anything I can do for you? And the Yid picked up his head from his tehillim, and his beard and his payas were soaked in tears. Tehillim was tattered and yellowed from all the years of davening, and obviously this was a very heilig chashuv Yid. And he said, I appreciate you coming over, I appreciate you checking in. And he said, I'll be honest with you, I'll be vulnerable. What do I have to lose? He said, I'm going through a very tough time. He said, every day when I come home, I see my daughter. She's my beautiful princess daughter, and she's not married, and she's getting older. And unfortunately, I don't have a penny to my name to pay for chasana, to pay for the expenses, and obviously to do anything beyond that. I'm a dalva evin, I have mamish nothing, I'm destitute. And I'm davening to Hashem. I decided, after so many times of trying to make a parnasa and failing and getting fired, that I'm just going to pour my heart and channel all of my sorrow and pain for myself, for my daughter, and I'm going to just send it all to Hashem. And I'm going to sit in shul all week, and especially on Motzei Shabbos, and just daven to Hashem. And hopefully He'll send me a Yeshua somehow. And this Yid that walked in, that was asking the question, said, I don't believe it. He said, you're not going to believe that I have a son. And my son is an older bacher. He's the best boy in yeshiva. And I also can't find a shidduch for him because I have no money. And he said, I have a great idea. How about we make a shidduch? And the incredible happened. They went home. Their children met. And they got married. And from this marriage, from this story, from the heartfelt prayers of this father, emerged the Heilige Reb Aryeh Leib HaKohen, the Mechaber of the Ktseis HaChoshen and the Avnei Meluim. Says the Chafetz Chaim, we see from here, take a look from Hashem's vantage point. There was someone that was going through tremendous tsar, and he took everything and he said, Hashem, I can't do it anymore. I've done all my shtalis, I've tried my best, and I'm just going to talk to you, and I'm just going to let you make it happen. I'm going to let you put all the pieces in the puzzle together, and I'm going to sit in shul and just daven to you and cry my heart. Tchinasi bakashasi, I'm going to send it all to you. And lo and behold, from those tefillos, from that complete subjugation and realization that Hashem is the Kol Yachol, he was zeiche to have an einikel, the Ktseis HaChoshen, the Avnei Meluim. Going back to what we began with, Yaakov Avinu and Esav were born together at the same time. And like we said, the message is that we're supposed to realize that even when the ultimate Toiv and Ra are together, and the Toiv, the good, the Tzaddik can say, I have the biggest excuse. I was born into this world with Ra, and this is my perpetual excuse. I can always say, Hashem, I was born with this, I was born with Ra, I was born with bad netiyas, with bad nature, Instead, Yaakov rose to the occasion and he said, no, I'm going to become the best. I'm going to learn Torah. I'm going to be the Yeshiv Tam, Yeshiv Halim. I'm going to dedicate my life to Mimis Atzma al Torah val Avodah. And he didn't let the excuses get in the way. But we said, but what do you mean? We know this all. But sometimes it just gets too difficult. It gets too hard. The challenges, the setbacks, those locked doors, we get stuck. How do we get through? How do we rise? How do we get out of the mud? So I think the answer is we can look back to the step before Yaakov Avinu was born. We can look at when he was conceived. We can look at when he was just a thought. Vayoser, Yitzchak, L'noichach Ishtoi, that extra tefillah, the fervent plea to the Rabbeinu Shalom, when he realized that there's nothing that tefillahs can accomplish. That's how he was able to overcome, to even break the teva, and was able to transform his wife, a lady that was barren, a woman that could not have children, into the mother of Yaakov Avinu. And us too, no matter what we're facing, no matter what we're struggling with, as individuals, as Echidim, and as a nation, we have to realize that we can take our tefillahs and look at them as a part of our day, that they're standard, like everyone else does, or we can say, Vayoser. We can plug in and take it a step up and empower our tefillahs, put them at the front, at the forefront of our minds, of our hearts and souls, and realize that when we really charge them with kavanah, with belief that they're able to accomplish anything and everything, then truly we can rise to any occasion, we can get through any challenge, we can walk triumphant on our nisyonis, and through that we can become the Yaakov Avinus, we can become the best versions of ourselves with that clarity and with that belief that tefillah can get us and will bring us anywhere and everywhere, and ultimately to Yerushalayim, Ir HaKodesh, b'mehera v'yameinu, with the rebuilding of Bayis Shlishi, b'mehera v'yameinu. Amen. I thank each and every one of you for listening. I hope you all enjoyed, and I wish you a wonderful Shabbos. I thank each and every one of you for listening. I hope you enjoyed, and I wish you a wonderful Shabbos.